Hello and welcome to another episode of Desert Island Tricks. Another guest is waiting to be marooned onto our little desert island. Now today's guest is a truly prolific creator. I think you'd probably associate him more with mentalism when you see what he's done for mentalism. And I was actually just talking to him and saying one of the first tricks I did very, very often in my first ever job when I was 16 was one of this man's effects. It's probably one of the cleverest tricks that I think still exists, and no doubt coined a very famous phrase, which is off by one. You'll instantly know what that trick is just by me saying that. So we're really, really fortunate enough to have Kenton here with us today. I've said his first name now. Kenton here today. And I'm sure that this episode is going to uncover some incredible magic and some incredible thoughts. So with that being said, of course, today's guest is the wonderful Mr. Kenton Knepper. How are you, Kenton?
Wonderful. Great to be with you, Jamie.
I'm very excited to have you here. My question for you is, did you find it easy or difficult?
Oh, well, I'll walk you through the process in my mind. Because I found it much more challenging than I originally expected. And I guess it tells me a lot about my journey and where I've gone through the years. In the old days, like when I was 14, I would have been able to tell you like right away. So part of what happened is I started thinking about it and think, well, what do I actually do? And my first thought was, well, look, I train people around the world in silent influence. I can do a lot saying nothing and with nothing. So silent influence would be, a big part of what I do. And then I thought, well, I also did wonder words, which I'm known for. And, wonder words is how to use words to influence people and get them to imagine things in their heads that hasn't even happened. So I went, okay, well, those aren't props or anything. Those aren't really tricks. Those are just like kind of concepts that I rely on. So I thought, okay, what else? And then I started thinking about things, and I thought, well, yeah, I also am known for doing equivocate, making people, choose certain things in certain manners. And also the no equivocate stuff, which is so basically mentally forcing people to choose anything. So it doesn't matter what's around. So, okay.
So if it's your first time to this podcast, then we're about to whisk Kenton away to his own desert island. When he's there, he's allowed to take 8 tricks, 1 book, and 1 non-magic item that he uses for magic. All of the particulars, like who's there, how big is it, are there huts, all that good stuff is all in Kenton's own imagination. We do not mind. It's basically the list of 8 tricks that he could not live without. And with that being said, we're going to whisk him away to his island now and find out what he put in position number 1. So what did you put in your first position, Kenton?
So first position would be Kolossal Killer. Absolutely. Basically, I put a card ahead of time in my wallet as a prediction. If I don't have a deck of cards, I just have people imagine a deck of cards, and I imagine them either choosing one that stands out to them or throwing it. Usually what I like to do is have people mix up the invisible deck of cards, separate them in reds and blacks, and throw either reds or blacks away. And then I go, oh, you threw away the reds. I can't believe you did that, which they don't have any cards. So when they do that, they kind of freak out. And then it's like, okay, do that with clubs or spades and keep one. Good. Everybody keeps the spades. That's good. And, fan them in front of you. Don't pick the ace of spades. Everybody does. That's obvious. Now you dropped it anyway. That's good. Okay, just reach in the middle and grab out a card. And, they do. And then I look at them and go, oh, don't let me see it. Okay, I think you flashed it. This is the 7 of spades. And they go, no, man, it's a 6. And I go, oh, I owe you then. I don't have that much money. And then I can reach in my wallet and take out the card, and it surprises them. And the fun part of that is I'll take out, try to miss so that I surprise them again. So if I say 7 of spades, knowing it's going to be a 6. So when they say I say 7 of spades, I go, nah, or they'll probably say six of spades. They'll say, "Nah, it's seven of spades," and I'll say, "Oh well, I'm sorry," and I'll pull the six of spades out of my wallet and go, "I was close though." And they'll go, "Yeah, yeah, that was really close." And I go, "It's still off by one though," and they go, "Yeah." And then turn over the card, and off by one is on the back, so it surprises them again. That really kind of solidifies. No, I already knew I was just screwing with you the whole time. And that's really, really fun, but it's kind of a double effect, a double slam for people. And they know. I mean, I don't have a very big wallet, so I can't have like half a deck or a full deck or whatever in there. So to me, that's just that's one of those things that if you're going to do a trick, it looks like a really powerful card trick, except you don't have any cards. You have a card that you're betting with in your wallet, and that's like one of those things. Like, oh, you do magic, let's see something. That's the way I'd love to start, because then it's like, wow, you did something really powerful, and you really didn't have anything. We were imagining cards, and we were doing this, and so I really love that because it's a powerful moment that seems to be about with nothing. It's all in their minds. It's not entirely true, of course, because you have to have a card in your wallet. You have to have the wallet with you, but in your mind, it seems that way. And I love that, because then people start getting like, oh, what you do is more than just the obvious trick, because you didn't really have anything, which for me is a really good setup. And especially, if I were on an island, that would be a really good setup. It's that catchphrase, off by one, has become such a thing that there are television shows and stuff that have it as a running gag. And there are magicians who are actors, and actors who love magic, and they've sneaked it into their acting, or they sneaked it into the script writing. And I find it hilarious, because I'll be watching some show and they'll go, "Oops, off by one." And it's just like, oh my God, it's a sitcom, It's like, it's wonderful to see how that's just become a thing all the way across the board. I've had some relationships where people would get upset because things would happen to be off by one around me a lot. And so they were like, "Stop it. It's not funny anymore." And it's like, you can't really help that. It's like, but yeah, off by one is like a really, really wonderful magical phrase. And it's really been fun to watch it catch on. And, on an island full of people, I'm sure it would catch on really quickly.
I think it
would be quite the running gag, right?
I think it would. Yeah, it's a great first choice. I think it's a really heavy hitter to go in your first position. So it's interesting to see where this is going to go. So let's move on to your second. So what did you put into your second position? It's
really a tough debate in a lot of ways, but it's not overall. So what I put in my second position was the tarot deck, just because the tarot deck is something that is really important to me, that I can use for self-study and keep myself engaged and entertained and working on all sorts of inner work for myself, as well as, do card effects with tarot. So I like that. I can also do readings with it, so that's good. I'm very fond of shifting consciousness and helping people and whatever. And so I can do that with a tarot deck really easily. So for me, that's got to be there, because it covers my own personal work. If I had to have, some people call that a book. So if that counted as a book, that would be a book. But to me, it's that would be something I have to have. Otherwise, I could get like very stir crazy. But with that, I could be at that with a tarot deck, studying that for lifetimes and still not exhaust everything in them. So I know of it as being more than just a way of doing divination.
Yeah, I think it's one that we've actually had. I think Luca Volpe had it in his, and I do believe Terry Tyson had it on his as well.
Luke is a student of mine, and one of the reasons we kind of hit it off way back originally was we were talking about readings, and I said, "Look, I don't want to talk to you about readings on a trick level. I was just not interested." And he goes, "No, no, no. I want to talk to you about readings." I went, "Oh, great!" So we were able to, say, let's help branch that out so more and more people get it, that it's not cold reading, that there's symbolism involved, and you can use that symbolism in ways that are really entertaining and helpful. And he was working, he later started doing cruise ships a lot. And then he would say, like, the minute you step out of the cabin on a cruise ship, somebody goes, "Show me something." And he just didn't want to be on performing all the time. And he just felt that was superficial, which I totally understand. So he started doing readings, and that made that journey always much more interesting because he helped people. He would shift things for them. And then, neither one of us tells people's futures. That's not what readings are for us. And so, yeah, tarot is just, it's endless. I was talking to some students because we've just done this big tarot intensive, or started it. We have 3 more sessions to go. And one of the things that came up was people said, "Well, how else does tarot like inform your life?" And I said, Off by One probably came unconsciously by working with tarot. Because there is a certain set of systems that go on top of tarot. And if you know enough, you go, "Oh, that's exactly it, except it's off by one." So that is possible that nobody said that, but it's possible that observations synced in and came out as the answer for the trick. But also because when I look at all these things in tarot, I see, oh, well, this is this personality, and this is me, and this is an aspect of myself. And I need to work on that aspect. I'm really not so great at that part of it. I'm really great at this part of that, So it just goes on and on when it comes to tarot. I just can't imagine. And again, I could do some card tricks with it. I probably wouldn't do many card tricks with the tarot decks. I don't feel that's really what it's about. But as I mentioned to you, like, one of the things I love to do with tarot is, is somebody says, "Oh, I'm really struggling." And this is true not just with tarot. You could do this with a divination deck too, or most message decks or whatever. Somebody say, "I'm really struggling with keeping my focus. I'm really struggling with like making things happen. I don't know. I've got to really focus and get my attention going. I need to start something. I need to, somehow get more power coming through me to do something. And I just don't, I need an answer. I need some sign or something, And people say those things. If you're a certain kind of magician, they're so enthralled with you, they ask you those kinds of things. So when somebody does that, I'll say, "Well, here, look, since we have this deck here, just touch one of the cards, take it out, and see if it tells you anything." And, knowing that by doing that, they're going to take out the magician card, and they're going to go, "Whoa," and say, "Oh, look at there you are, claiming your power, pulling it down, from inside, from a higher source, pulling it into order on the table." And I can talk them through all that stuff. And it's really empowering for people. And I just find that so magical, and it's not false. I think that's one of the things that people really misunderstand. Symbols aren't fake. Symbols are representative of things in consciousness. And so I apply them accordingly. And knowing that you can shift people on some greater consciousness level by doing a simple effect, it doesn't feel like a trick. That feels like a real event. It's what I call anti-tada, right? Magicians are very used to doing, "And you picked a magician, ta-da!" And anti-tada is kind of like, "Yeah, I picked a magician. That's interesting. Let's talk about that." There's no ta-da there, right? It's really about, "Oh, okay, well, wow, isn't that fortunate? What does that really mean?" And now we get into a discussion. I love things where we get into deeper stuff. And I think the more you work with symbols deeply, that's what Carl Jung, the father of modern therapy and psychology in a lot of ways, found out for himself on accident, so to speak. Not that he would say accident, but it was a funny synchronicity. He started having these dreams, weird symbols and stuff that he had no understanding of and no idea about. And then had to go to, I mean, back then you had to go to like the old libraries and search and go to other countries and find a book, whatever. And he dug up stuff and realized he was dreaming alchemical symbols and went, well, what in the world is that about? And then that became the foundation of most psychology as we think about it now. How utterly fascinating. And if you understand that symbols are the language of the subconscious, then suddenly communicating by symbols seems kind of vital. And I've been talking about this for more decades than I can think about, but that's the thing. If you want to connect deeply with people, you can distract the conscious mind with amusement, but while you're doing that, throw in some of the deeper communication, throw in symbols, right? Magic tricks, a lot of tricks, especially a lot of props, were originally symbols. And that idea has been discarded. But a lot of props really are archetypal symbols, and those symbols were meant to speak to people on deeper levels. So I think the more we reclaim that, the more we experience that kind of wonder in performances and in everyday life. And it's just a fascinating thing to watch it unfold.
Yep, I agree. It's a great choice, and it does lead us on to your third position. So what did you put in your third place?
Well, very generic, simple thing, which would be a T-tip. A T-tip just because then I can use that for all sorts of things. Things that people know and things that people don't know. So that would be it. It also would allow me then to create a special thing based on that allows me to do a lot of other work of mine that I can't talk about, but it allows me to do a lot of other work. So yes, that would be a have to. Because, how cool is it to be able to take like a leaf off a tree, rip it to shreds, right? And then put it back together and have your hands be empty. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. And same with, take a bunch of little pebbles and squish it in your hand really hard until it turns into one big solid rock. There's lots of cool stuff that you could do with that. And I think people don't think about it. We still have very limited thinking about that particular gimmick, and I think there's so much more that can. I know there's so much more that can be done. So that just gives me a never-ending thing. I wrote in a book of mine this whole story about, well, imagining you're on a desert island and blah blah blah. Well, I could still tell that story on a desert island, and then have them tell me what they felt and whatever, and still have my empty hand go like this out of thin air and have sand come pouring out, right? Or so there's just lots and lots and lots of things. There's a reason why Milford Christopher back in the day wrote, 101 things to do with that prop. It's like, yeah, and that's for starters, because there's just so much more. So, in fact, I used to, and I still often do, but I used to always open lectures for magicians with a special deck that they consider beneath them, and a T-tip. And I would fool them badly and make them think it was NLP and all that stuff, and then I'd tell them what it was. So I have a very a very big fondness for that because it's just endless what you can do.
Yeah, it's a great choice. It's one that I think it's probably in our top five overall because so
I would
many
think
people
so.
have mentioned it. And the funny thing is, everyone who's mentioned it so far has spoken about it in a different way. Mark Spellman spoke about, he had this lovely story about him being on a date and he took the flower petals, put them into his hand, and then when he pulled it back out, they were back together, very much like what you just said about the leaf. But then if you look at other people, you've got obviously the salt pour trick, so you can have salt transfer on an island. That'd be great with sand. It's such a versatile prop, and I think it's going to be for forever. It's going to be around for forever, I reckon.
Yeah, well, and it was, you've got to think back. It was originally made out of wood. It was hand carved out of wood. So, I mean, it had been around a long, long time in lots of cultures and for reasons. And don't forget that that's also something Al Baker used that as a way to do a billet switch to do mind reading. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many things. It's really kind of crazy, silly.
Yeah, it's great. It's an excellent choice, and it leads us perfectly into your halfway point. So what did you put in your fourth position?
Well, so the fourth position is the number of the physical and the mundane. And to me, that would be a card deck, a regular deck of cards. Um, Most people in magic and mentalism are no longer aware of this, but I was a student of a lot of close-up guys. I was a student of John Mendoza's for many years, so I was on my way to becoming a card tech close-up kind of guy, and hung out with lots of those people, and had written a book that Mendoza actually wrote for me of my work in close-up that burned up at a printer. If it were not for that, I probably would be a close-up guy. But that book burned up and I just kept going and, then found out people were, one of the things I do with the deck of cards is, hey, shuffle a deck, take a card out, don't let me see it, think about it. Now, look, we just met, but I like to learn, I like to meet people from the inside out. And you're the kind of person who's, it's a little confusing because you're a very clear thinker, which is great. Well, usually a thinker would be like a black card, but you have a warmth, a genuine warmth, and a softness to you. So that would be a heart. So it's a little tricky. I'm going to say it's between a club and a heart. But don't tell me any, don't give me any hints. But that's the kind of person you are. And playing cards represent a lot of what people are. So you're also really pretty even keeled, but you're not one of these people. People like fives, for example, they're right in the middle. But the problem with fives is they get really full of themselves and get themselves into messes, thinking everything's external, and you have more balance than that. So the harmonious number would be a six. So it's like a six of clubs or hearts. I'm going to say a heart because you have a rounded face. What card did you take? And it'll be the six of hearts, and they're like, holy crap. That's not just a card trick, right? That's connecting with somebody. That's actually part of why I got the rap of being a mentalist. That and being able to do things with nothing, because by doing things with nothing all the time, people just said, well, that's mentalism. To me, it's like, no, it's magic, but okay. Fine. So yeah, I mean, a deck of cards, there's so many things I can do with a deck of cards. And I have my own version of Torn and Restored card that definitely is important to me. I have a funny way of cutting the aces. I have stuff I learned from Mendoza. I have, I guess you'd have to include a stranger card in that. But I have a whole, routine I've done forever that's the deck is all backs and all faces and are all the same card and there are change colors and it just goes on. It's like every trick you could conceive of. The deck shrinks, the deck goes back to all that stuff in one routine. It's called conscious overwhelm because the whole point is just for people to finally go, Okay, well, and yeah, so you can do anything with cards. What else you got? And I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. So yeah, there's so many things. And again, playing cards relate to tarot too. So those numbers and the suits and all that all relate to the minor arcana in tarot. So I can go deeper with a deck of cards too. Could I use a tarot deck in a lot of those cases and not use playing cards? Yeah, but it's a lot easier to make poker-sized cards disappear than a large tarot deck. So I can do it, but sometimes I'd want to make it easier. So yeah, that's why.
So, regular listeners to Desert Island Tricks will know what I'm about to do.
Okay.
I'm about to be devil's advocate.
Good,
So,
cool.
with this deck of cards, you're only
Yeah.
allowed to do one more trick for the rest of your life. You're only allowed to do one trick with this deck of cards. What would the one trick be?
That's actually a really tough choice for me because there are a couple of things I've always done that are just people freak. And I'd rather, I do a bastardized version of Kenton's version of Cards Across that's kind of Paul Harris smashed with Vector, smashed with whatever. Um, that's one of those big ones. But I think probably what I'd have to do is is have somebody think of a card, take a card out, throw it in my pocket, and then have them name the card, and then I'll go through the deck and show it's not even in there, and that would be the card I took out. That's been one of the opening things I've done in my life for, I don't know, 40 some years, 50 years. So I guess I've never published that one. But that's something that's been the opener for a really long time.
Wow.
So I guess that would be it. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
choice. So is it one that we are going to have published in the future?
Now that I'm thinking about it again, yeah, eventually I probably really should do a card book. It's something I've not really done. I kind of did Cards of Influence, but it didn't have all the techie stuff in it and things. Although Jay Sankey and Alan Ackerman and some guys really like some of it, but yeah, a card book would probably be a good idea.
So we're taking that as an exclusive, everybody. Kenton's new card book coming out very soon in the future.
Very, very later. Yes.
So that brings us over your halfway point. So we're at number 5. What's in your 5th position?
Yeah, so at that point, I'm going to do something else that's really mundane that most people will no longer touch with the 10-foot pole, which is awesome for me. And that is sponge balls. I would put sponge ball because I really made a living in close up with one deck of card, one stranger card, and sponge balls for like ever, and the rest was all the other stuff I know. But I mean, that's just yeah. And again, if I'm on an island, it's really cool because I can go up to a tree and pluck off little fruit, off the tree. I mean, there's so many cool things symbolically that I can do with that. And my personal sponge ball routine, which has been on video for a lot of years, has weird things in it that, is different than everybody else. So it's great because your hands are always empty and stuff keeps happening and people hold on to a sponge ball and it disappears in their own hand and then they give it back to you invisibly and it shows up. I mean, there's all these weird things and it's just really interactive and fun and interesting. And then at the end they all kind of disappear or I can put them back on the tree. So yeah.
I love the idea of you plucking a fruit off and then it turning into a sponge ball. I think that's wicked. That would be great.
Oh yeah, no, it's really beautiful. And there are times where I've wanted to do that and a tree didn't really have fruit. So what I would do is reach up, and a lot of times I would use a green sponge ball. So I could reach up and then I go, oh, and pull on the branch and go, oh, it's not quite ripe yet, but it's okay. Well, it'll work. And people totally buy it. I mean, they just, and subconsciously, we were talking about subconscious community. Subconsciously, subconscious goes, yeah, okay, I get it. Free, green, round sphere. Got it. Okay, know what that means. Right. So now the fact that it doubles and then multiplies symbolically is exactly right. I mean, so it works on lots of levels. Bob Neal once said to me, he goes, Kenton, I like your sponge ball routine. You know why? He said, why? He said, because sponge balls are nonsense. And the way you play it is like, these things are so obtuse that it's like it's all nonsense. He goes, it's great. And I think there's some truth to that it is like, of course, this is weird. How weird is this? Well, hold on to it. I don't know what the heck this is, and then it's like, well, you hold that one, I'll hold this one. I don't know wait, where'd it go? Okay, let me give me yours. Let me see that thing, and then it's like, oh, you got two of them. Okay, you hold it. I don't know. Let's make stuff up, here, look, I got an invisible one. Gone. Aren't you impressed? And they're all like, no. And you go, well, open up your hand. And they scream because now they have it. It's that kind of interaction that's like, that is mainly pure entertainment, but it's about interaction between people. You have to have, in the mysteries, they used to say, they give you all this heavy stuff you have to work on really hard forever. But in the midst of that, they remind you that, when you're looking at the devil, when you're looking at horrible, nasty things in life, you have to laugh. And so sponge balls give that crazy, silly, funny laughter, in the midst of everything. So it fits an important role.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of looking at it. I like the idea of it's the silly break in someone's day. I can imagine that, just that silly, chaotic, random moment in someone's day just at the right time will really impact their well-being and just cheer them up, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have kids come into one of the celebrity restaurants I worked in, and they would come in, and parents would tell me this, and eventually I got to see some of it. Kids would come in and say they built altars. It's like, what do you mean you built an altar? Good for you, I guess. I don't know. And the parent would explain that they built these shrines or these little altars based around the ball. Right? I let them take home a ball and they have this thing, and it was like a magical thing, and it's in their closet, and it's like, it's a shrine. And it's like, holy crap, I mean, off of a sponge ball routine, that's pretty darn good, But one of the things I would do with kids would come in, and if they seemed down or were a little whatever, and distracted, our parents were talking heavy stuff, and the kids like, I go, whoa, what's that? And they go, what? And they go, on your sleeve. What do you always keep that sticking out of your sleeve like that? And they'd look at their sleeve and go, what? And I go, that thing. And I'd reach in their sleeve and pull out the sponge ball, and they'd go, whoa, I didn't know that was in there. And boom, right? I mean, it was instant connection, and it worked great. I had one night it didn't work great. I had one night where I got called into the office by the owner, who said, what are you doing out there? I said, what do you mean? I'm just doing my usual stuff, same stuff I've done for the last 15 years, He goes, yeah, no, you're doing something else. That's what they're saying. I said, okay, what are they saying? And they said, well, this doesn't really seem like you, but a customer complained that you worship the devil, and that you were trying to convert their kid to Satanism. And I went, why is that? And they said, you went up to this child, it wasn't, whatever, it's 10 or something, You went up to this kid and you pulled this red ball that represents Satan out of his pocket. I went, oh my God. Look, I was doing this, and they went, oh, okay, never, just stay away from them.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone refer to sponge balls as the devil. If you also have performed sponge balls at home and you have been referred to as the devil, please comment below. Let us know. I want to see how many people this is happening to.
Yeah, we might start a sponge ball cult. No, 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 no. No, just joking. Just joking.
Hello guys, I'm here to talk to you about Alakazam Unlimited. This is the best streaming platform in the world, I'm telling you now. With Alakazam Unlimited, you get access to over 150 magic routines. This is video performances and explanations. We have card magic, coin magic, kids magic, rope magic, mentalism, stage, parlor, impromptu. We've got you covered. All of this for the low price of just £4.99 a month. And you can cancel at any time. Perfect if you've got commitment issues. Yes, I'm talking to you. Guys, you are going to absolutely love it. If you haven't joined the platform already, what the heck are you doing? Alakazam Unlimited is a streaming platform that you need to be a part of. Not only that, there is also exclusive content only available on the platform. Check it out now, alakazam.co.uk. Cheers.
With that being said, let's see what trick is in the 6th position.
Well, so after that, I would have to think of things that would make a big statement to people, without being a real hassle. Because again, if you're on a desert island, you probably don't want to have a lot of things to be hassled with. So the next position would be Kenton's cane, or the Sonic Staff version, which is either a big tall staff or a big tall musical instrument that I command, and that then dances around and floats around and spins and adheres to my hands, and does my bidding or whatever. But I can do it in full light. I can do it with people really close. It's not like it doesn't have any of the restrictions that most people doing that kind of a trick have. And what's great, it's great for lots of reasons. One, the minute somebody has a big staff and sets it down and looks at you, there is an air of authority about that. It just is, right? And that's an archetype, and that's symbolic. And so, somebody doing that, you go, okay, you have my attention. Symbolically, a pole set down like that in seriousness is a connection of above to below. So I'm just talking on a symbolic level. So this is saying I'm drawing in higher authority. I'm connected to something greater. So that holding the staff with seriousness that way definitely gets people's attention. So then if I do that and I make some motions and it starts dancing around, hey, people are like, whoa, what is going on? And it stops, and you look at them, and then you command it and it does more. And then it floats up into the air, and it sticks to your hands. And I mean, it's a giant trick that commands a lot of attention and a lot of power symbolically. And it you can play it goofy if that's your thing. I never have. It has moments that are maybe a little goofy, but it's mostly really serious, strong, really more strong than anything. But it's one of those things that when people see it and experience it, go, wow, what is going on? And that's like, okay, this guy has control. He has control of some secret force somehow. You can tell. And yeah, I want people, if I'm on an island, I want people to think that. I want them to know I have special, access to other information. So that would be a definite thing. Besides that, it's a pole. It's going to be useful. Or if I bring it as a musical instrument, that's going to be useful. But that's a trick that is really strong. It fits my personality. Pretty much instantly, people then would call me a wizard the minute they see that. So it takes my usual persona and makes it clear really quickly. Fills a lot of roles that way. So yeah, and the fact I can do it, at night around a fire, or do it in the middle of the hot sun, and not care and be like, have people, really close and stuff and all around. Yeah, why not? It's a cool thing.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. We've had one other person mention a floating cane effect, which was Chris Harding, and he said it's the single trick that he's practiced most in his life, but he's never actually performed it for anyone. So maybe and I know he's an avid listener of this, so Chris, I know that you're listening. Maybe this is his opportunity to go out there and finally perform.
Oh yeah, go do it. And I will say to that, there's I would stick with my cane, but I will say that I was known so much for that I was at a movie premiere and doing magic in this theater before the movie showed. And I looked up the aisle, and there was this very fine looking lady, obviously of wealth, who had this cane with a diamond encrusted handle on it. And I said, may I borrow that for a moment? And she said, oh, certainly. And I stuck it to my hands, and I took my hand off, and I had to stick to my other hand, just Malini stuff, and then gave it back to her, and she was like, oh, and everybody loved it. And I thought, this is great. I can do stuff with nothing because, that works. So it's definitely can be very, very powerful if you play it well. And you got to remember, Max Malini was very fond of, loving to talk about how he did everything with nothing too, and, said to the queen when she asked, where are your props? He said, lady, I am the props. I am the show. I am the show. And that's the thing. It's like, that tells the audience, wow, you just got something from somebody, and you have special powers, obviously. I mean, come on. It's like, there was nothing else. So yeah, go out there and do it. It's a real stunner. It's a real stunner.
Great choice. And that brings us to the tail end of your 8. So we're on number 7 now. So what's in your 7th position?
So my 7th position would be my sphere, my floating sphere. And again, for some similar reasons as my cane, the sphere is the way I do the sphere. I can do it anywhere, and again, I can do it in full light, and I can do it with people all around, and I don't have to set it up. I can waltz in wherever and go do it, and it's not contact juggling. So and it doesn't have a big hunkin' something in it that shows up if you turn the wrong way or, whatever. So it allows me to float this metal ball, it's really metal, around, and again, like the cane show, I'm accessing my attention and my energy and my special powers to make this happen. So it'll float around my hands. I can move my hands all the way around it, and it will stay in place. And then I can make it shoot out and I'll, follow it. And it will stay floating around my arms and my hands and up above and out in the audience with me and, all that kind of stuff. And it's very strong. It's very beautiful. It's, the cane is strong, powerful. The sphere is strong, but beautiful. And part of that is because of the prop. If you have a silver ball and you don't treat it like a silver ball, you treat it like it's something else. Symbolically, the subconscious immediately goes, oh, you're talking to me. You're talking about the moon. And I know what the moon represents. In fact, it represents, among many things, subconscious. So the subconscious is drawn to that. It loves it because it recognizes a symbol of itself when it sees it. That's something that most magicians don't think about, but again, why I'm very big on people studying when I have students, that they learn all about symbolism and things, because it matters. But when you have this beautiful glowing silver spoon, if you're let's say you don't have it with you and you're out supposedly you don't have it with you. You're out among the trees or something, and there's a bright moon out, and you go, oh, isn't that just beautiful? It's so enchanting, It's just so, there's something about that moonlight, right? With it just, if we could capture that moonlight, bring it down among us and whatever, and then I would reach up and have this big silver sphere reflecting the moonlight, boom, I've got people's attention and they're feeling something. So now that it floats around and it does all this stuff, it's very, very mystical, very magical, and feels again like, wow, this isn't just a trick. You have some extra powers, abilities, energies. You know something that we don't know. So to me, that's very important. And I've been known to do that in special situations with students, in initiations and things. It's that powerful, in a couple of cases, it came out of the swimming pool from below, out of the water, and rose to the surface, and from there went up, and I had to follow it up out of the pool and with everybody all around. So it's just very, very strong, powerful imagery that's beautiful, but also very mysterious. And it just, I still remember one of the first times I saw a floating sphere and just went, oh my God, that's it. It's the thing. And, I still remember having my first zombie as a, maybe I was in my teens, maybe early teen. And dropping it and watching it get dented and going, but then getting right on it and working on it. My sphere doesn't have those problems. And what I really like about it is because it's really big and it's really metal, I can have somebody hold out their hands while it's floating and then pick it up and set it on their hand, and they'll go, oh, it's like, oh, they're surprised, they thought it was like a balloon or something. So when it's really a metal ball and it hits their hands, they're like, whoa, and you go, yep. And then I pick it back up and it starts to float again. It's like a great moment of, oh, you are up to things that we just don't know, and to me, that's what it should be. Magic should constantly, and mentalism should be constantly that. I mean, to me, I know there are a lot of guys that go, no, it should be telling people you're all tricked or you're all fools in life, and I just think we got enough of that in the world. I don't think that's what magic and mentalism is for. I think magic and mentalism is for us to stretch our minds and imagine that there's more to life than what meets the eye. So for me, things like this are really important because it reminds us, oh yeah, wait, I know somewhere inside of me that there's some beautiful and other unexplored things that I don't think about. We don't talk about this often, but performance magic, in a very real way, came about because people couldn't get into mystery schools and certain things, right? They couldn't get into the hierarchies, whatever, information in a government. And so they decided the only way to appease the masses so that the masses wouldn't like tear up the place, and try to overthrow all the leaders, was to tell them some secrets about what they were up to, let them know, well, we still have that problem this day. What is the government really up to? Those, I bet this, I bet that. And they come up with all these crazy things, but then somebody from them high comes out and says, no, here's what we're doing. Then you go, oh, okay, right. We can debate that, but at least we're not crazy about you, So these people in power said, you know what? We're gonna go out there and give them a little play, a symbolic play of what we're doing. Give them a symbolic play about the gods and goddesses. Give them a symbolic play about and they did, and they used magic to do that, right? And the masses would see that as, oh, I see, there's a rising of this, and then Ra is going to come down and do that. And then we have this. Okay, great. So you're talking to the gods for us. And we're okay. And you've shown us your powers. And okay, fine. Right. Now, the people who were involved nowadays, we like to go, oh, they were screwing with the masses. No, they weren't. What their point of view was, how do we communicate this stuff that they can't understand? How do we communicate to them some of this information in a way they can handle it? And that was to present little, what we now call plays or dramas of things that in a way they could comprehend it. We didn't have terms like subconscious and stuff. That's relatively new. They had to represent that with symbols and things. So the moon was a symbol for that. That's where performance magic and mentalism came from. So this idea, this modern idea of, no, magic and mentalism represents cynicism and hatred for anything other than science is not accurate. It's anything but accurate. It's the equivalent of me saying, I really hate music. I mean, I really hate music, but I can't help but make records. I sit down and play the piano and make records and people pay me for it, but I hate it. No, you wouldn't do that. That'd be nuts, But somehow we have that in certain factions of magic and mentalism. It's like, I'm against all that spooky, weird, whatever crap that you guys believe, but let's use their symbols. I don't understand that. Mind you, I have very good friends of mine who are very much on that side of the coin, and I'm okay with that. I love them too. But for me, that's not what magic and mentalism is about. And as an art, I really think that's a disservice to dumb it down that much. I think it's much more beautiful. It can be much more beautiful than that. And so the sphere has to be in there because it represents all of that in a simple little sphere.
And I would love to have watched that lady with the sponge ball's face when you start making a sphere float in front of her. If the sponge ball was too much, the sphere. Well, we're gone from Kolossal Killer to a tarot deck to a TT to sponge balls. We've got card in pocket. We've got your Kenton's cane, and we have your sphere. So goodness knows if we've got all of those, what's going to be in your last spot. So what is in your 8th position?
Well, you will never guess. And I mean, I seriously, you will never guess. And I think most of my friends would never guess. Again, to reiterate, knowing that I can use silent influence and wonder words and all the kind of mental forcing I do and all the kind of readings I do with nothing. And I can do that in lots of ways and just make anything seem important. And it's like I clearly don't use any prompts. Well, but I grew up on a 2.5-hour illusion show, and then I have my own big illusion show, and people don't know that, don't think about it. I had a really wicked version of the cremation that I did that got me in some trouble. But what my last pick would be is if I were on a desert island and I would want to do the Azra. And I have a really good reason for that. Look, if you've got a cane, a staff that you draw and power down from some higher source, and you can then invoke it and make it move all around, and then you can imbue it into a planet that you move around. What's next? You bring it to humanity, right? And then you raise humanity up to such a high level they're no longer embodied. Well, how perfect is that? It says so much about deeper things symbolically. But there's another reason, and that is Orson Welles. And there aren't too many people that know this, but Orson Welles, was of course, you probably do know, he was very, very much into not only movie making and acting, but he was very much into magic. And so he took magic very seriously. I saw him on a television special once do, I swear it was 10, maybe 15 minutes of a prediction in a block of ice holding us all spellbound. And the method was the TT. So, it was freaking brilliant in what he could get by with. But the Asra, Orson would stage the Asra. He had these famous Hollywood parties, or infamous, depending. And he once staged the Asra outside. No curtains, no nada. It's, here's a woman. Here we are outside in nature. Okay, I'm covering her up. I'm doing the thing. Now she floats in air under this cover, and she goes higher and higher and gets way high above his head, and he has to really reach. And then he takes the cover away, and she's gone, and there's nothing but trees, and that's it. She's gone. And it's just like, okay, fine, you win. You're the magician now. You're the real wizard. Got it. If you ever get to watch that footage, and do what it takes to watch it, watching Orson do the Asra outside, without any cover, other than the cover over the woman. But I mean, there aren't flies, there aren't, places to go up, there's sky. It's just really, really stunning and beautiful. So I would have to say that would be the ultimate last thing, would be the Asra outside.
There's that thought experiment, or the idea that if you could go back in time, or if you could have a dinner party now rather, and you could invite people back and have a dinner party, who would you have? But I always think of it as, if I could go back in time and go to the first time a trick was performed, what would those tricks be? So for me, I would love to be watching Harbin do the zigzag lady for the first time. I think that would be phenomenal. The first time seeing Banachek do PK touches, being in that room, I bet was incredible. But the Asra, so seeing Leroy in the theatre, the first time that happened, the first time that lady vanished, I guarantee the feeling in that room, the air would have gone cold from people just not understanding what was happening.
Yeah, it's like beyond comprehension, it just really, and yes, I agree with you. At that moment, the first time people saw that would be, I'll quickly, that brought up two quick associations to mind. One was, I saw Harry Blackstone Jr. many times, and one night they were in the middle of doing the Asra, and Gay was on the couch, and they'd covered her up and stuff, and she started to rise a little bit, and they went to move the couch, and one of the casters totally broke off, and the whole thing tipped really severely. And he looked around, and they couldn't get it off stage and stuff, so he just made a motion. This is where Harry was brilliant. He may not like to have rehearsed, but he knew how to handle stuff no matter what happened. So it was like, okay, I'm stuck. He walks forward to the curtains, and he makes a motion, and the curtains close very majestically with nothing happening. And he says, "My father always said, take care of your props, and they will take care of you." And by God, they did. It was brilliant. I had a moment like that when many years ago, the first time I saw one of John Gung's levitations, which we now know much more commonly, but it had not been seen by very many people. And it was the version of the Asra in which the person flies so high, there's no way to even reach up and pull the cloth off. And so they get so high up that the magician has to be like Superman and fly up from the stage, up and hover down, and then pull off the cloth and slowly float back down. And I'll tell you, I don't mind saying the first time I saw that, I mean, I had tears in my eyes. It was so beautiful. It was like, that is how that should look. That is, it wasn't done as a ta-da. It was a piece of beauty. It was like, oh my God, I've started this magic in motion. What am I going to do? I know the next thing to do, but I can't do it. I'm stuck here on the physical level. Wait, I have to summon. Oh, yes. And then it was like, got it. And, and up into the air, up to the heights to pull the cloth down and slowly come back to the ground. It was just so, so beautiful. I really wish we would get back to more of that in magic. I think we've gotten head heavy in magic and mentalism. We've gotten very head heavy, and we think it's all about fooling the intellect, and it's not. It's about connecting with people and not only connecting to people on the personality level, but connecting to them on a deeper level, on a much greater level, and understanding these beautiful symbols of art that we have at our disposal and using them, treating them that way. It's not just trick of the week club or day club or whatever it is now. It's, all those things used well can be something else. And, I would really like to see us get back to the soul of that. I think that's how I ended up getting labeled too as a mentalist and the guy that can do everything with nothing, which really isn't true, but in a way it is. And that's because it was always about connection. It's always about, can we talk about these things on a deeper level? Let's do that. And if I can work on things with you on a deeper level, we're connected and we're friends and we're close. And yet we also know there's something else that's mysterious hanging out in that atmosphere. Eugene Berger used to say to me, Ken, you actually have a foot in both worlds. And he said, most magicians aren't like that. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good description, of me, I think. And I would love to have more of us be able to be very grounded and sensible and logical and analytical, but also be able to reach for the heights and the depths within us too. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I don't think it ever has. And I think we're mistaken when we take that one extreme pole or the other. That's never it.
Well, I think we can see that with your list. I think the list is so varied, but there's so much thought that's gone into it. And even when you were talking about, using cards as a way to connect, and you've got the tarot deck and the idea that this cane and this sphere that are just moving on their own show that maybe you know more and there's more to you than maybe that meets the eye. All of that is very interesting, but it does lead us on to your two curveball items. So your two curveball items, of course, you've had 8 tricks, but you're only allowed 1 each of these. So what did you put in your book position?
In my book position, I would put Paul Foster Case's The Tarot, A Key to the Wisdom of the Ages. It's impossible to talk about that book, and I often refer it to students in tarot, but with the warning that it's probably going to look like complete gibberish to you for a while. But the more you hold tarot cards in front of you and read that stuff, the more it will show up. I spent decades now doing that, and I still pick up that book and go, what? You revealed all that in here? I never saw that before. It's literally when you have eyes to see the next steps, then you'll see it, and it's in that book. It's so that, yeah, that has to be that's like many lifelongs thing, perhaps. Yeah.
Amazing. We've not had a tarot book before, so that's a really interesting one. So is that what you would recommend if someone wants to get into reading tarot? Is that a good baseline to get stuck in?
No. And let me be fair about that. if you are very sincere about tarot, yes. I mean, it's the only book I would recommend to start. It really covers primarily the major arcana, as it should. The minor arcana is like a couple pages in the back, and but it's important because it will give you the depth of what tarot really is about. And while you might not understand all the things, it will help you understand some of the associations and the various traditions that relate, and why it's so complicated, and it's so much more than you think it is. And when you understand that, then your way of handling a tarot deck, even in a magic trick, is going to be very different. The tarot intensives, we just started the first class of a new set a couple days ago. After that 3 hours, they were like, oh, well, we'll never touch a tarot deck the same. And it's like, yeah, that's what you want to feel, Look, I worked in magic shops, man. I remember as a kid having the magic shop would say, "Oh, we have to sell tarot decks. It's good money maker." And it's like, I don't know about those things, geez, whatever. And people would come in and go, "Oh, well, this isn't right. That color of yellow is not the right shade of yellow. Oh, give me a freaking break. Get out of my store. Get out. It just would drive me crazy." Somebody else would go, "Oh, you know what? I had a friend who once took the tarot deck and put thumbtacks in it, stuck it in sacrilegious." And I'd go, "What is fucking, these people are crazy. They're all worried about this kind of silly, superstitious nonsense." Well, because I didn't know enough. I was ignorant. I thought they were ignorant. I was wrong. I was ignorant. And by the way, ignorant doesn't mean stupid. It means you don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know better. I hadn't studied with an open mind about any of that stuff. So when I did, yeah, wow, volumes opened up. So that would be, that's if you can handle it and just don't freak out right away and just try to stay with it, it will certainly show you the depth, the complexity of people who take tarot seriously, so that you don't fall into that easy trap of, oh, it's easy, you just make stuff up. Because when you understand the depths of what's in that book, you'll go, oh, I don't have any clue about any of that. You just making stuff up seems really silly. It's not the answer. It's a horrible idea. I had a friend of mine who made a wonderful trick, and I'm not going to mention what it is, but he made a wonderful trick and he put it out, and I got it and I saw it, and I messaged him and said, there's reasons for tarot being made the way it is. And he goes, no, but I did this because by changing this color and changing that color, it's easier for this mnemonic system. And by changing this and changing that, it makes it easier for the trick. It looks better in a layout. And by changing this and changing that, and I went, you don't understand tarot. It's like saying, well, I made this guy red because who cares? It's all made up. It's like, but it's the sky. If the sky's red, we got a problem, don't we? You don't just, but he didn't know. And I really tried to talk to him about it. And he was like, well, I don't care. Anybody I ever perform that trick for doesn't care anyway. So why should I? And I thought, because you haven't run into people who know better. That's really probably not true. He probably has. People who know better don't usually say anything. Which brings me back to one other story. J.C. Wagner and I were working a resort here in Phoenix together. And most people don't know this. J.C. was very well trained in tarot and Hermetic thinking. And JC and I, after we finished, we saw that one of this giant corporation, had also hired a tarot reader. So we went, let's go over just for fun, let's support the guy, be encouraging. So we went over there because he didn't have a line, which is unusual. Readers almost always have a big line and stuff. And so we thought we'd help him out. And he gave us readings, and JC and I are looking at each other, and we said, afterwards, we walked away and we talked amongst ourselves, and we walked back to him and said, "Can we talk to you for a second?" And he goes, "Sure, you may speak to me." And we said, "Look, you know, we're not experts on tarot. We know enough to know we're not," because only foolish people would say that. But you showed us this and said this. You showed us this and said that, and that's not even close. That's so not appropriate. And he goes, "Well, that's the way I do it." And we said, "Okay, but we just want you to, that's fine. You can do it however you want, but we just want you to know that there's like a traditions and history behind this. And they should probably be aware of some of the symbols and what it means." Whatever. And at that point, JC and I just went, "Okay, yeah," we walked away. That was that. People know. Mostly we don't say anything, but lots of people know. And you have to understand there are millions and millions and millions of people, all billions probably, all over the world that study it. So for you to think I'm ignorant, therefore they're ignorant, is not smart. It's just not a wise position to be in. So if you're going to either don't use props and things that you don't know about, or learn about them.
Great choice. Lots of people hopefully digging out that book then and learning about tarot a bit more. But it does bring us on to your item. So what was the non-magic item that you use for magic?
The non-magical item I'd have to have, period, just so I can live, as a piano. I just have to have it. It also relates to everything else because of what I do. But yeah, I'd have to have the piano. It would be nice if I had a way to record stuff or write down whatever it was coming up with, but I'd have to have a piano. Absolutely.
I think between a piano and a pool table, those are the two most frequented things that people have mentioned.
Yeah, again, we don't talk about it a lot, but you think about some of the greatest magicians in history are musicians too, I mean, if you go to Penn and Teller and hang out, what's going on? Well, there's a pianist that's a jazz guy. Well, no, I just go to Foolis. Great. Go talk to Mike Close. He's a piano guy. I mean, there's so many of us that do things. I just happen to also, write my own music and perform and do all that stuff with music too. But there's so many of us. Mark Striving's my good pal from way back, as a jazz musician. There's so many of us that do music. I mentioned the book, this tarot book by Paul Foster Case. He got into it because he was a magician, gave a couple lectures, talks at the Magic Castle, in fact, back in the day. He was a magician who was also a conductor and a concert pianist. And one show, he was backstage, and this guy leaned over to him and said, "Hey, so Case, where do you think playing cards come from? You're sitting there shuffling cards back here backstage, where do you think they come from?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Come here." And that started him on his opening up all sorts of incredible things. He was definitely a leader in that kind of thinking after that. So you would be surprised at how many people are into deeper symbolism that walk the halls of the castle and that are well-known names, and how many musicians. There's a reason Irma still plays the piano at the castle.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great choice, and I'm sure we're going to have lots more people choose it. Yes. It's inevitable. But it's a great list, and some really fantastic magic and some great thinking in there. But if people want to find out more about you, Kenton, and everything that you're doing, especially online, where can they go? The
website for magicians and mentalists is wonderwizards.com. It's WONDERWIZARDS. Make sure you put the S in there. Wonderwizards.com. And yeah, I mean, I've been pretty prolific, but you can get all the hardbound books, you can get all the recordings, all the things I'm known for. A lot of the stuff we've talked about, actually, right there. So that's the place to grab me. And I am on social media, and you can find me on Facebook too. So if you want to know something or get in touch more, message me. That's the quickest way. Don't email the company or something, because good luck when I'll get to that. But message me quickly. I'd be happy to, try to quickly respond when I can.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Kenton, and thank you for sharing all of those little pearls of wisdom and those little anecdotes as well.
It's been a great pleasure to be with you as always, and all my best to all my friends there.
Amazing. And thank you all for listening. As always, please do leave us a review on whatever platform that you're listening to this on. It really does help us move through the rankings. Please do go check out Kenton's website as well. I see him very active on Facebook, and there's always something incredible going on. He's very, very busy, and he's very, very active. So please do go seek those out. Of course, check out some of the things that he's spoken about. If you feel like that's something that you want to explore, then go for it. But with that being said, we will see you next week on another episode of Desert Island Tricks. Goodbye.
Hi, Peter Nardi here, and I really hope you enjoyed that podcast. I just wanted to let you know that Alakazam have their own app. You can download it from the App Store or the Google Play Store. By downloading the app, it will make your shopping experience even slicker at Alakazam. You'll also get exclusive in-app offers and in-app live streams. So go download it now, and we'll see you on the next podcast.